Redskins Draft Central, presented by 7-Eleven. And for the next couple of weeks, we'll get you set for the 2020 NFL Draft. And I'm so happy to have the mouth of the South, Fred Smoot, with us for the draft preview show. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, baby. You know I love my draft, Larry Michaels.
I know you do. I know you do. No S. And here is Kyle Stackpole from Redskins.com. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready to go. Excited about it. Finally be able to talk about all the different positions, so ready to go.
All right, a lot to get to, Fred, so let's step to it. Here is a list of the Redskins draft picks. Now, this could change by the time the draft rolls around. Take a look at these picks. Obviously, the first-round pick, we'll talk about that in depth. What would you say, Fred, is going to be a successful draft once the dust settles a couple days after the draft? You're sitting back, looking back. What would constitute a successful draft?
First of all, getting the best player in the draft most definitely would constitute as a good draft, and also filling in gaps. I always tell people it's easy for any NFL scout to say the number one and the number two pick are good. That's easy. I want to see you really do some work. Fourth, fifth, sixth rounders is where you find those special guys. Do you remember a guy by the name of Antonio Pierce, who we brought in as an undrafted free agent? That's how you win drafts. He won the Super Bowl. He became a glue of a team. When you find those guys is when you become special in the draft.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you, Fred. And I think really it's going to be about finding some weapons offensively in the later rounds, whether it be tight ends, whether it be wide receivers, and then really shoring up the offensive line, shoring up the secondary. But I think, like you said, getting the best player in the draft, that'd be a good start, and then just really filling those needs that the team has going in.
Now, the Redskins have 7 overall picks. They've dealt a couple. They got the 5th back in the trade with Dunbar. They got that back, and they also have a 7th-round pick that was swapped in the Case Keenum trade. Fred, where are the strengths of this draft? Before we get to Ron Rivera, where are some of the strengths in this draft?
Most definitely it's the wide receiver position. When you look at the wide receiver position, it's the deepest wide receiver draft could be in 20 years. And don't be shocked if some of these D linemen become future Hall of Famers. Quick Law, the guy from South Carolina, is special. Of course, Alabama always has special D linemen. This is a very deep draft when it comes to quarterbacks, D linemen, and wide receivers.
Yeah, for sure. Wide receivers is crazy deep. I know NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah, he had 27 wide receivers with third-round grade or better. So that just shows you that there's a lot of good wide receivers, and you can get them throughout the draft. In addition, you have cornerback, starting with Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. You have another guy, C.J. Henderson from Florida. So wide receivers, DBs, definitely going to be strong.
What if I told you I thought Jeff Okudah was, how should I say, regular unleaded gas? I think he's long. I think he benefited from playing with 3 of the best D linemen in college history, with the Bosa brothers and with Chase Young. He does great things. He's 6'2.5". He has length. He can run, but ball skills is what I want to know. What is he going to do when he had to face great receivers week in and week out? I don't know if he's worth the number 3 pick. When I'm looking at Isaiah Simmons, a guy that reminds me he's the best clone of Sean Taylor I've ever seen in my life. 6'3.5", 4'4", 40, or 340, excuse me, can play 5 different positions plus rush the passer. It's no way if I'm the Detroit Lions, I'm passing on that guy.
Quick comment from Fred, real quick, before we hear from Ron Rivera. You've been very vocal in your support of Chase Young. You've talked about it over and over with me. You're on Redskins Nation before. What is it about this guy that pushes your buttons? Does he excite you? What is it about him?
Like I said, I watched the Bosa brothers tear college apart, and I always wanted one of those for Christmas for my Washington Redskins. And then not only are you going to give us one that people think is a step better than those guys, and that's saying a lot in itself, but also he's a local kid that's going to play with a lot of pride. But I love what the Redskins are doing right now. I don't believe local kids are going to play better than any other kids, but when they band together, they playing for something more than just the emblem on their helmet. They're playing for brotherhood, and I like that. Our quarterback has connections to this area. Now you bring in the Chase Young. I think if you ever gonna get the fan base back on this side of this team, this is the way to get it done.
I like it as well. Now, here is Ron Rivera. It's going to be a virtual draft, and as we heard earlier, Roger Goodell's going to make the picks from his basement. And
nice.
So here is Ron Rivera. I talked to Ron last week talking about trades, and will this virtual draft reduce the number of trades? Fred, I want your comments after the coach. Here's Ryan Rivera.
Coach, how do you think this virtual draft's going to go? I guess we're getting more word every day, and I'm sure there'll probably be a couple tweaks in how things are going to go. But on the face of it, is it going to be a level playing field? It sounds like it is.
Well, I think that's one of the things that the league wanted to make sure it was a level playing field. You know, everybody talked about the potential of going back into your facilities and stuff like that. And, you know, there's some teams that are absolutely forbidden, you know, by the state government. And so, you know, or the local government. So, you know, knowing that, you know, without putting in any pressure on anybody to do something that they shouldn't be doing, the league felt that the safest way, and again, Dr. Sills had a lot to do with this about making sure that we follow the protocol, was that, you know, was to do it at home, you know, with social distancing being practiced, and just doing it the right way. And what's interesting is, and I told the story earlier, was that I was sitting around having breakfast this morning. I had the CBS morning show on, and I was watching how Gail King and her cohorts were, you know, shooting it from home. And each one of those folks were in place at home and just doing their show. And I thought, God, you know what? I know that's exactly what we're hoping happens for us when we do the draft.
Coach, what about trades? You know, that's a conversation people are talking about. If you're at home, everybody's got a level playing field. Do you believe that trades might be reduced as a result of this situation?
I think they will. I think people will go in there with this in the back of their mind that, you know, hey, we can't screw around. And if for whatever reason the other side is kind of dragging their feet, hey, you just pull the trigger and make your pick. I mean, that's to me, that's, you know, that's the attitude you got to have. If you're the one that's trying to make the trade, you know, you want to get value, you want to get benefit. If you're the one that's, you know, that's holding the piece, you know, you don't want to waste it. So to me, if whoever I'm dealing with is dragging their feet, I'm moving on. I'm not going to waste my time.
Coach, you've been through something similar, but not like this, lockout year of 2011. Your team would have reported a couple days ago. So
Yeah.
How are you communicating? Are you communicating? Can you share your plan with us to any degree?
Well, what we're doing is, you know, we're going to follow the directives coming down from the NFL and NFLPA in terms of the way we can deal with our players. You know, we've reached out to our guys. We've sent them the notes, you know, the memos, just let them know what's going on. And probably the biggest thing is that once we get clearance, you know, from the league and from the PA, we can start communicating with our players. We'll start the virtual coaching process, and we'll just stick with that until, you know, we're allowed to come back together. And, you know, if we have to go through the entire off season doing it virtually, we will. If there's an opportunity to, you know, see these guys face to face and coach them in person, we will. But again, we just got to make sure that whenever that's decided, it's what's right and it's what's safe.
I guess there was no virtual communications back in 2011. Maybe there was, but it's not like this with me and you right now. What lessons did you learn back then on what you might be able to apply when you guys get together?
Well, you know, the one thing, Larry, was I didn't meet my team until the day we opened training camp. You know, I became a head coach, you know, of the Panthers. I think it was January 21st. And I didn't meet my team until July 26th or 7th, I think it was, when the day we opened training camp. So, but the one thing was we were ready. You know, we had everything in place. We had all of our scripts and all of our workouts and everything in position to go, so that once we got together, we just hit the ground running, and we've been running. You know, we ran ever since until, you know, it was time.
No pro days, no visits. How much of an impact, again, level playing field, but I know your guys been working on the draft since May of 2019.
Exactly. Our guys have been working on this for quite some time. In fact, you know, some of these, you know, these juniors that are coming out, some of these seniors that are coming out, our guys have been watching for 3, 4, 5 years. So it's not like we don't have a background on, we have an understanding who they are. We're going to have to rely on the interviews that we got during the bowl games, the all-star games, the interviews we got during the combine. We'll have to rely on all those things, and then we'll have to rely on the conversations our guys are having on the phone lines or the virtual chats they're having with the college players. You know, we're allowed to do that a few times a week. With anybody we decide that we want to talk to, we can reach out and visit with them by phone, by Zoom, by FaceTime. So it's not like we're not getting an opportunity to visit and talk with these guys. The hardest part, obviously, is not being able to see them in person. That's probably the biggest disadvantage we have right now.
Fred, what do you think? A lot there to consume, but back to the trades and the reduction of trade. Do you think that's going to be a reality?
I think that's going to be a reality. It's going to be hard to trade. Think about this. Sending a trade in with 2 minutes left on the clock. Does it go through? We've seen this happen with the Raiders before. I don't know if you can go through and reshuffle the cards. I think right now, if you're a GM or you're a scout right now, you're going in with fixed picks. You're not trying to trade. If anything, you're trying to trade a veteran. Let's say if we're trying to trade Trent Williams to get back in the second round, we'll be doing that while the first round is going on. We will already have that pick 10, 15 picks ahead of time. I think it's going to slow the trades, but I think it's going to be some veterans get traded for some draft picks in return.
All right, we're going to pick up our conversation on what to look for at some special positions, and also a special look at the year that Fred Smoot was drafted after we hear from some of our partners. Redskins Draft Central is presented by 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven is a proud partner of the Washington Redskins. Don't forget to join us for the first of its kind 3-day live stream event made just for Redskins fans, presented by 7-Eleven. You can check it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube beginning 8 p.m. Thursday, April 23rd. And Redskins Draft Central is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance. Visit geico.com to see how much you can save. All right, we're going to get inside the draft, position by position, and a look at the year Fred Smoot was drafted, and what a year that was. Some great memories for me. But defensive end, let's take a look at the top 10 defensive ends as we see it. And at the top of the list, Fred, you got your guy Chase Young. No doubt about that. What about some of the other top defensive ends as you see it?
Well, of course, you got Derrick Brown from Auburn, who a lot of people think could have been in the top 5 in this draft. Javon Kinlaw, who I talked about, can play a little bit of everything on the defensive line. I think it's a diverse group. I think it's going to be some droppers in this group with AJ. Make sure I state his name right. Is it Influenza from Iowa? Well, he's Espinosa.
You're close enough.
I was close enough. I hit him with a little smoothism there. At the end of the day, I had high hopes for him coming into the year, but I thought the combine really hurt him. He showed that he's really not going to be what you call a sideline DN. He's more of a Pittsburgh Steelers 3-4 type of DN right there. Then you got the Jordan Elliott from Missouri. Raekwon Davis is a guy that failed a lot. He was the guy that was going to be slotted to be a top 10 pick, but I think he got lost in the shuffle of having an average season. And it's a couple of guys out there I think they can change the road.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned a lot of the guys, but yeah, Derrick Brown, he's a guy that could go in the top 5 along with Chase Young. Another guy, Ross Blacklock from TCU. So there's a lot of good defensive ends, defensive tackles that are going to go in the first round of this draft. But like you said, no better than Chase Young. He is a step above all these guys. He's a step above really all the rest of the prospects in the draft. So, but it's a good group, and if the Redskins aren't going to pick Chase Young, there could be some other guys that they're looking for.
Well, I usually don't like, how should I say, Penn State defensive linemen. They're not my favorite. But the guy, Yatir Gross-Montas, I think it's something special about him. I looked at his story, and I seen all the stuff that he went through. He lost a brother that got struck by lightning. He lost his father, and he plays like his hair is on fire. So I'm always in the draft, and I'm always looking for players that's motivated by something other than just being drafted and playing the game.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him as well. A lot of people think highly of him, so we'll see how it unfolds. Now, I want to take you back, Fred Smoot, to the year you were drafted. And Kyle Stackpole is just going to wonder why the 9th DB taken, right, Stack?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. What's going on with that? You had Adam Archuleta get drafted ahead of you?
Adam Archuleta.
Hey, before the draft process started, I was slated the number 1 cornerback and the number 1 DB. Went to the Senior Bowl, won MVP. I just don't know what happened. You know, I was a skinny guy coming out, 181 pounds. They held that against me, and I had a loud mouth, and they didn't know how unpredictable I would be at that time. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But like my grandma told me on draft day, as I sat there and cried, I was so happy, but I was still disappointed because I didn't go in the first round. She said everything happened for a reason. And that reason was for me to go to Washington. I needed to be in Washington. I thought it was a great place for me. Now, I was mad at Washington that they drafted Rod Gardner ahead of me, and I had just shut him down in the Peach Bowl to 0 catches. That means as many catches as a dead man.
Well, you know what? I'm so happy you get drafted by the Redskins. It was a great moment. Got to know you. I've known you that long, Fred, since 2001.
Yes, it's 2001. We're going on 20 years now, man, Larry Michaels.
Wow. And I got that drop. I still use that no S. I think I might have gotten that your rookie year, too. So I got a lot of mileage out of that. Whatever happened to Floyd Womack and Ellis Wims? A couple of your teammates. They played long in the pros?
Oh, yes, sir. Pochard had a long career at Seattle, study tackle. I knew he was going to be there from when we played. He was dominant against all the SEC DNs. Ellis Williams won a Super Bowl our rookie year, if you don't remember, with Tampa Bay rush in. So he did really well. We had a lot of Mississippi State Bulldogs. We had Willie Blade. I played against him 2 times a year. He was at Dallas. Mario Hagan ended up going to Buffalo, having a great career. So we had a lot of Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, we can't compare to this new stash. This new stash of Mississippi State Bulldogs are special when you talk about Fletcher Cox, when you talk about Chris Jones, I already have Super Bowl rings. When you talk about Jeffrey Simmons, I almost got to the Super Bowl. When you talk about Benary McKinney, when you talk about Montez Sweat, we're talking about New World Order, big play slate, plays for Philadelphia now. It's Bulldogs all over the league.
Yeah, you left your quarterback out of that. I guess you did that on purpose, huh?
Oh, no. I love Dak. Dak is my guy. I love Dak, but he got to stop throwing these parties while we in quarantine. Other than that, I love me some Dak Prescott. I cheer for him 14 games a year.
That don't make no sense. Now, quarterbacks. Stack, take it away. Give us a rundown of these quarterbacks. Obviously, the Redskins aren't going to be in the market for a quarterback as much as some people would like them to be. Maybe later in the draft if somebody falls, but obviously Burrow is the undisputed #1 pick, Kyle Stackpole.
Yeah, that's what it's been like for a couple months now. You got to assume that Cincinnati's going to take him first overall. And then the #2 quarterback taken is really going to be between Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert. And a lot of people were saying, oh, tank for Tua, Miami's going to get Tua. But Miami could end up taking Justin Herbert instead out of Oregon. So those are the top 3 quarterbacks. And then look out for Jordan Love out of Utah State. He's a guy that he's raw, but he has all the athletic ability. He has a strong arm. So a team could take a chance on him in the first round, and he could end up being just as good as these other guys. So those are the top 4. But like you said, there's plenty of quarterbacks throughout the draft that if the Redskins want to target later on, that's something they could do.
Fred, what do you think? I mean, Tua, there's so much talk about him. We saw another workout tape he put out. Obviously he's battling back from very serious injury. They say he's got the best arm out there. Is his game going to convey to the pros? And what about the question mark about his durability? A lot of teams obviously don't know if he can play a full season.
First of all, it's football. We all gonna get hurt. It's a gladiator sport. I think Tua is one of the best, if not the best quarterback. Now, what Joe Burrow did this year was unbelievable. I told people when I watch Joe Burrow, he reminds me of Joe Montana 2.0. He has that quarterback face. He's special. His players love to play with him. Cincinnati will be a fool not to draft him. And if you tell me you're gonna go to Oregon and do this again, Miami, you're gonna go to Oregon. We've seen what happens to Oregon's quarterbacks in the league. They don't play against the same competition that Tua played with. Tua will lead your team and your organization back to greatness. If you pass on Tua, it will be the biggest mistake that Miami has ever made. And I think they got a good group of coaches down there in Miami now. They have a lot of draft picks. I think they have what it takes to take a chance on Tua because they are going to get quality players in the back end. And I do like Justin Love. I think he has some Pat Mahomes in him, the way he releases the ball. I love baseball players at quarterback because they can throw from uncomfortable positions. And they can throw to where, as a DB, if I don't see your feet set, I'm not going to ever stop my feet. And when you throw it at me, you're going to have an advantage from the door. So I think Love is going to be one of them guys. I don't want him to start, but I want him to sit. I want him to learn. But I think he can be special in this league also.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it very much. Folks, we will get back to you on Thursday of this week. Then 2 more shows next week. On Monday and Wednesday, setting the scene for the draft on April 23rd. And a reminder, coming up this Thursday, there's a virtual Loudoun County luncheon brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce. Go to the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce Facebook page to sign up because it's yours truly and head coach Ron Rivera starting at 12 o'clock. For Fred Smoot and Kyle Stackpole, thank you for watching Redskins Draft Central presented by 7-Eleven, and we'll see you next time.